So I started recording on my camera. For those that can't watch it, totally chill. Um, I know Cindy wanted me to tag her. There we go. I did the thing. Okay, so we're going to start off with some questions that y'all asked. I love you too, Carrie. I'm nervous. I wish you were here. I'll hold my hand. Okay, but you're not, and that's fine, because I'm a big girl, and, I can do this on my own. Hi, Jody. I have... Okay, Sam's telling me to take a deep breath and just calm the fuck down. Okay, so, hi, everybody. So, we have a small crowd today in terms of aliens, all Sarsahr, by the way. And there's about, let me see, there's roughly 5 from what I see. Aw, going to bed, just missed you. But there's about 5 of them. I have the teacher here. Some of you that are reading Charles Hall's book, Millennial Hospitality, about the Sarsahr, or as Charles calls them, the tall whites. There's the teacher here, and Sam is saying Range 4 Harry is here. That's his name that the humans have given him. So I'm going to start with the first questions from yesterday that people had asked. I don't know if I should say people's names on who asked what. If someone would love to know more about the relationship with their kids, how the Sarsahr, the relationship, and then also what things the kids do to express and play, and what the kids think about humans. Okay, sorry, Sam. Sam's saying that's too much to throw at him at once. Okay, let's just start with the first one. We'd love to know about the relationship with your kids. How are Sarsahr with their children? He says, we love our children very much. His pride's coming out, and he's saying more so than humans do, which I disagree with. Just saying. He said, he's laughing and saying, you can disagree, but from what we have gathered over time and have studied, it seems as though humans do not care so much about their children. It's not just about parents who care for their children. It's about other people. You don't care about what's happening in other countries to other children. And he's saying, I'm not generalizing everybody. He says, I'm sure you yourselves that are part of this group are much more empathetic towards other children that are suffering in other families. He said, however, majority of humans do not care about what happens to a child that is grown up in a home without any love, or grown up, he says, you call it poverty. He says, growing up in poverty, or growing up in a country where there's a lot of war. You don't seem to think twice about it. You yourselves don't go out there and stop it from happening. He said, there's a lot of reasons why you don't. For one, you feel powerless. And he said, first off, you're not powerless. He says, you have much more power than you think you do. And Sam is a little bit of a conspiracy theorist kind of person, which is kind of interesting considering he's an alien and you would think he would have the answers to everything, but he does not. Sometimes he just does not know answers to things. And he's saying that he believes, he says, my little theory is that the government tries to make you feel as though you are powerless so that you don't do anything to fight back from them, which I believe that's true. So the other question was, what do kids do to express and play? So what I'm thinking from this question is that maybe if they're angry, how do they express their anger? He's saying it's no different than a child throwing a temper tantrum. And he says that how we respond to a child throwing a fit on the floor, or sometimes our children will throw things if they're that angry because they don't know how to, what's that word you're using? How to analyze your emotions, he's saying. They don't know how to filter them out just yet. They have to be taught how you deal with your emotions. And sometimes in the earlier stages of their life, they are much more violent. And he says, and that's how we view humans. A lot of the time we view them as children, because the way you guys react to your emotions is very much like our children would. You don't know how to analyze your own emotions. And he said that's a whole other topic. But he says that we are calm with our children. We don't yell at them. We never raise our voice to our children. We never inflict any kind of physical punishment. It's more of, I think that's called positive reinforcement. He says that they don't take away anything from them as a term of as a punishment. They take away a toy or something. They said that that's too negative. They said that instead, whenever they do something positive or good, we always reward them constantly for any good behavior, no matter how little it is. And whenever they do something that's wrong, we don't reward them at all. And they're able to decipher the difference, because they're like, oh, I didn't get a piece of candy for that. I must not have been allowed to do that. He says we sit down and talk with our children. We don't like adults, because children aren't lesser than you just because they're younger than you. He said, in fact, children are much wiser than adults are in many ways. And how do the children play? He says that they play a lot of the same games that human children play, like hide and seek. They'll play tag. They like to play with the sagebrush out in the desert. They like the dead sagebrush that's no longer in the ground, they'll throw it around and play catch. They like to pretend. And he said that our children are really no different than human children. And what do your children think about humans? He's saying that requires two answers. He said before, in the older generation, we were often told to stay away from the humans, and we were raised to fear humans because of how different they are and how dangerous they could be. But as we're getting older, my generation is teaching the younger generation to openly accept humans and be more open-minded towards them. So he said it's a slow process, but we're getting there. Brenda asks, Sam, can you talk about other ETs on Earth? And can you share any details? He's shaking his head. He said, I can't speak much for others. He said that they don't have... Hold on, what did he say? He said, we don't have much contact with the other extraterrestrials that are here on Earth. But we are aware that there are others that your government has ties with. So the Greys, for instance, we don't go near the Greys. And the United States government has been very accommodating with keeping us separated from one another. There are boundaries, and he said borders, but he calls them boundaries, where the Greys are not allowed to pass, and they're not allowed to, and the Sarsahr aren't allowed to pass over. This keeps the peace. That must be really hard, Just like these guys you fucking hate for like ever, or just like chilling in your backyard, just, Sam's joking and saying, we won't build a wall though. So do you have any more detail about the other extraterrestrials? And he says no. He said he doesn't like to pry in other people's business. He said that's up for the other species, the other races, to tell you about themselves, not the other way around. Oh shit, so many people are saying hi. Okay, so I'll read everyone who's commenting just now. I'll get to that later. I'm just going to go through the questions that people had asked the other day first. All right? Sounds like a good plan. All right. Okay, so Alice asked, I hope I didn't skip anyone. Nobody didn't. Okay. Alice asks, aliens and spirituality seem to go hand in hand. Hand in hand, not hand in ham. She's asking what your views on this are. And she says, please, with a little purple heart. And Sam saying thank you for saying please with the purple heart, Alice. And um, he's saying spirituality does go hand in hand. It's not separate from each other, much like humans believe. He said, you're starting to become more accepting of how they intertwine together. Like, he said, not just aliens, but technology and the everyday form of life. Anything that happens, there's always a spiritual basis behind it. One doesn't dominate the other. He said, so for instance, let's just call it the physical world. Anything that's non-spiritual that some humans would think just purely logical, we'll call that physical. The physical and spiritual will intertwine together constantly. One does not dominate the other. They both coincide together. He said, you can't have one without the other. So aliens and spirituality. He says aliens. He finds it funny when you call him an alien. He said that we are extremely spiritual beings because that's what we are. We are spiritual beings first and foremost. We are souls in a body, much like yourselves. And we are really no different. We may look different and we may act different because of our body's biology and our body's natural instincts, but we truly, deep down inside, we are no different than you are. And he said that's his views on it and his people's views. He said even though we are aware of this belief, he's saying that we still have our ego. And much like humans do, you are fully aware of the whole spiritual aspect of life and how we're all one. But at the same time, you still struggle with judgment, feeling judgment towards others. I want to say in advance, I'm sorry, my roommates are really loud and they're watching The Matrix, so it's kind of like the shit, right? So they're going to be really loud. Let's see. Shelly! So Shelly Wilson Wolf, I love saying her name like that. Ask Sam if they are starting to understand us more and some of us humans' crazy quirks. Are they becoming more accepting? He says yes. He said again, the older generations are much more fearful towards humans. And most of the time, it takes a lot for them to even go into town because, you know, they like to go into Vegas and be entertained. He said that a lot of them, the older generations, are much more hesitant to go in and be around humans. He said some of them, if a human so much as make eye contact with them, they freak out. He said, but my generation, we are a bit more fearful. Not a bit more. He said, we are fearful, but we're a bit more understanding, but the fear is still there. He said, our children, it's like the fear is nearly gone. It's not there anymore. And he said, so you can really see how we're transitioning and learning as a species about humans. So about you specifically and the people who are coming, the humans coming in contact with you, I feel, and I think others feel this way, that maybe we should teach you about our customs and how we act and our sense of humor and things like that so we can meet each other halfway so there's no misunderstandings. So like when Carrie joked on the last video with Avery, you know, some of the Sarsahr women left because they got angry, like because of her joking and they didn't understand it. So is there a way that we can meet halfway and kind of like better understand each other? Okay. Sorry, that was my question. And he says, oh, yes, definitely. He said that we are becoming much more patient with humans. He said, yes, we may get mad because it's still all new to us and we're not quite used to the way humans behave. But once we calm down and analyze the situation and our emotions, we better understand that a human didn't mean anything by this joke or by acting this way. And so we don't hold any hatred towards any humans that may have ticked us off before. Hey guys! Be quiet! I'm doing a thing. Sorry. I hope that didn't come out so rude. Whatever, I don't give a fuck. Okay, so Paulette asks, Sam, are you and your people, along with our military, keeping an eye on Kim Un? It's that Korean guy. You know, the Korean dude with, you know it. Do you think someone will take him out? He would take him out. He's joking, say, take him out on the town. How much does the military tell you? He says, first off, we're not going to take anyone out. He said, that is a leader of a country, and that will cause a lot of problems for us if we were to do anything in regards to violence towards another leader of a country on a planet that we are not natives. So he said, no, but I don't think she was asking if you will take him out. He's just somebody. He said, I don't believe humans should be killing any of their kind, no matter how dangerous they may be. He said, not always is violence the answer to your question. That's hard for some of us to understand, though, because some people, they just keep on being assholes until you just eventually, like, you know, lock them up or something. He said, well, then lock him up. Don't kill him. He said, if you kill somebody, you're not setting a better example. By killing somebody who has killed others, you're saying the same thing, and it'll continue the cycle. It'll never end. So are you keeping an eye on Kim Un? I don't know how to pronounce his name. He said not particularly, he said not religiously. I don't know what word he's using. But he says, no. He said, that's not up for my people to decide on what to do with your conflicts. Those aren't ours. He said, we will intervene if it affects your planet, because it'll affect not only us, but everyone else in the universe who comes to Earth and everything. He said, we'll interfere in that aspect, but we're not interfering in order to stop one human. It's more of the benefit for everybody involved, not just one race in particular. He said, but there are other extraterrestrials who watch over planet Earth and take care of the well-being of humans and helping with their ascension and making sure that they're safe for the most part. He says that that's their job. He said, my people do not do that. He said, because we strongly believe in not interfering in anything. He said, we do assist in a way that is indirect. If we hear of something that's happening that we feel might harm the Earth, we will notify. He says it's mostly the Yael that do this, and the Pleiadians that work with them. There's many others, but I don't want to get into that. It's a whole other thing. It's blowing my mind right now. So he's saying that they'll warn them and let them know what's happening, but they won't, the Sarsahr themselves won't be involved directly. How much does the military tell you? He says, nothing. We don't want to know anything that's going on between your wars and your conflicts, because that's he's saying, I'm sorry to say, but that's your problem, not ours. And he said that we don't involve ourselves in things like that. He said, we have learned from other civilizations we have been part of to not involve ourselves in human wars. He said the only thing the military tells us is things that pertain to us specifically about our trade and things like that. Okay, so Heather, she has the same name as me. Heather Pierce, I believe. That's how you pronounce. She's asking, what threats exist in your community? He's confused by it, and he's saying, what do you mean by threats? Do you mean by diseases? Or are you talking about wars? He said, we do not get involved in wars anymore. We don't have those kinds of threats, but we have diseases. So, and I answered this question for her because she asked if you were only stationed on Earth, and they're not. They're everywhere. Okay, do you exist like humans do in linear time, reality? And he said no. He said that humans, he said how it happens is most species that are developing more, they will be stuck in he said not stuck, but they'll be thinking in terms of linear time being linear. He said, but slowly over time you'll outgrow that because it's all part of the process. He said, you can't think. You know the idea that time isn't linear, which that's the start of it. But slowly over time, you'll get out of that mind frame. He said, the fact that you think time is linear, that holds you back a lot as a species from advancing technologically. He said, but you will get there eventually. Don't try and push yourselves too much. He said, your species is progressing quite quickly. She's asking, can you guys observe pockets of negative and positive energy surrounding the Earth? He said, yes, we can see it. He said, there's a lot... He's saying there's a lot going on with Earth. There's just so much. He said when we first arrive into the planet, there's a lot of mixture of negative and positive energy. And he said it looks like there's just a continuous storm happening all the time surrounding Earth. He said the way that we see the energy is not the same way that you would see it. He said, but for sake of argument, we're not arguing though. Anyway, but he says for the sake of the conversation, let's just say the negative is gray colored and the positive energy is pink colored. So you have all these gray clouds and all these pink clouds, and they kind of morph into each other. Some of them are more prominent in certain areas than others. He said that it's hard to even comprehend how much, he's saying, polarity that Earth has. He said he can't even begin to imagine how the humans feel constantly. And I was talking to him about this the other night, how we have a constant tug of war within our own heads all the time. There's so much polarity with us. He says that he greatly sympathizes with humans because he said he can't understand the feeling, but logically he can understand how difficult it can be to be human. He says, you're much stronger than I could be. And Laura's asking, when did they very first come to planet Earth? And when did you start to associate with humans? They came to Earth. When did you come to Earth? He's trying to think in linear times. He's like, oh. He said, I would say before when you had, even before you had ancient civilizations. He said before then. And he says, we have seen many species that have lived on Earth come and go. Were you there for Atlantis? No. I think he said no. Okay, so you weren't that old. But he said they've been coming here for thousands of years. And they've been associating with humans since they've been here. But what they've noticed is that some humans will come and go. In terms of, he said most of the time it's because of a huge wipeout in terms of your weather, or some type of comet will hit. Or weather change, and your people aren't. He said every single time your people are never prepared for the dramatic weather change. He said I can't understand why you don't learn from your previous mistakes. And he said it could be because you don't remember. He said your people just need to live underground. And he's saying that they're in contact with the older civilizations, but they didn't get in contact with today's modern times until right after World War II, towards the end of World War II. That's when they started to come in contact with the American government. But they've always been associated with humans. Okay, Sam. Gail, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. Can you ask him who the heck is Range 4 Harry? So for those that are reading Millennial Hospitality by Charles Hall, that's an amazing book. If it weren't for Charles, I would not be in contact with the Sarsahr. So I have to give credit where credit is due. So I have Range 4 Harry here, and the first thing he's saying to me is, you didn't listen to me. When I went out to Indian Springs, Nevada to make contact with the Sarsahr, he had showed up in my hotel room that night and told me not to go out into the desert. I think he knew I was going to sneak onto the Air Force Base, which I did, which was awesome. I didn't even know I did, though, but this is a totally different story. But that's the first thing he said to me right now is, I warned you and you didn't listen to me. But he's laughing. He said he's happy I didn't listen to him. He says, who the heck am I? He says that I am a... He said that he was there when I was having the conversation with Gail the other day, that he is a communicator. He helps with transferring information during the trades with the United States military and the Sarsahr. And he said kind of like a moderator. I'm the referee. I keep the peace and make sure everybody's well understood. He said, which is a huge job. Are you Sam's superior? And he says yes. So Range 4 Harry is in a way Sam's boss. They're kind of like equal, but they're like in totally separate departments if you think about it. But Range 4 Harry is like higher up in this one department. But so in a way, it's kind of Sam's boss. It's weird. Let's see. What's the other question? Okay, so Rachel asked, what is your advantage in associating with humans in general? Sam's saying keeping the peace. He said, are you talking about with humans now? Or he's saying with civilians? He said, not really the government. He said, because he said, I feel like I've talked about my trade and our agreement with the U.S. military so many times. There's only so many ways I can word it. And he's saying, in general, our contact with humans now, in terms of just everyday people, our benefit is we want to be able to live among you openly and not have to hide. That's our benefit. That's what we want. We just want to live peacefully among your kind. He said, because we are very tired of hiding. It gets very tiresome and boring. He said, especially for our mothers, our housewives. They get very bored underground. And most of the time they can't come above ground because it's too cold. So they're stuck underground. And it says, we try our best to have things fun for us to do. He says, we have a little movie theater underground, which I've been to, and it's awesome. And he said, but it's not the same as being above ground and commingling with other humans. He said, we're very social creatures. And we like to socialize even with beings that are different than us, no matter how scared we are. We feel much safer when we're behind a disguise. But he's saying that the benefit is just living among your kind. Okay, so Shirley asks, Sam, do you also have connection to the tall whites and other constellations? He's asking, are you asking if my people are in other constellations? If so, yes. He said, but are you talking about other beings that are tall and white? He said that they're entirely different species than us, but we do have contact with many other different extraterrestrials that we come across. And then she's asking, do you know the teacher and her assistant from the Orion constellation? He's saying, no, not from my understanding. I mean, he said, but we do have a Sarsahr called the teacher, and she's here, but she's not from the Orion constellation. Okay, so Brenda's asking, and this is more of a personal question from Brenda. Sam, how do you deal with me and Josh? Is it hard having your wife sleep with another man? He says, oh yes, it does. He said, not as much as it used to anymore. I used to get very jealous. He said, yes, I do feel jealousy. He's making fun of humans, and he's like, oh, such a shocker. He says, I feel anything other than just pure peace. He's very sarcastic today. He says, but I do get jealous. I used to get so enraged that I would have to separate myself altogether from and try and get as far away from Heather as I could possibly get, so that my anger and my jealousy could subside, because I didn't want to hurt Josh, because I know how much he means to her. That's sweet. He said, but recently, don't talk about that. Okay. He said recently in the relationship, something happened in the relationship that made me appreciate him much more. Very subtle. Thanks. And so he says, though my jealousy is still there a little bit, it's not as prominent as it used to be. He said, but yes, it was very hard in the beginning. He said, oftentimes I wish you would just come live with me underground. And Ange is asking, what do the Sarsahr do to power their lights and electronics in their community? He's asking, are you asking about on Earth or on Earth? On Earth or on their home planet? And he's saying on Earth, we are powered by whatever the electricity that your government uses to house us. He said, but on our home planet, and he said, and I believe I've discussed this already, our light comes from a natural source. We have these minerals that are bioluminescent, and they provide much light for us. So we don't need electricity in order for us to have light. We get it from another source altogether. Do you guys utilize the concept of free energy? And he's like, I'm not understanding what you mean by that. He said a lot of the phrases I don't understand. I think she means like alternative energy, like, power mills and all that good shit, and solar panels and stuff. He says, I don't know what it is that your government uses to provide us with our electricity, but our own personal technology, we use ourselves. So say we have our spacecrafts, we use our own technology. And he said, and I will not tell you how we power our spacecrafts. He said, not even your U.S. military knows how to do that. What about running water? He said, on Earth, it is supplied by the U.S. military. However, they do the plumbing. That's how we get it. And he said, but on our planet, we have a running... He said we get our water from two ways. The minerals that are also bioluminescent that provide our light also drip water constantly into these giant pools. So we get our fresh water from there, and it's filled with a lot of nutrients from the mineral. He said above land, we'll dig tiny little... he said we don't build pipes out of plastic like humans do. We use the earth itself to create... He said the ground itself to create a pipe, a natural pipe. That'll cause the water to flow down into a pool that we have made. How do you deal with waste disposal, biological and material? He said, we try not to have a lot of waste. We always recycle the things we use. We always find a new use for it. If it's absolutely unworkable, he's saying, if we can't use a broken part at all, we will burn it and use the energy from the... He said, you can burn trash to create energy. And we use that energy in another source. What about biological? He's saying, do you mean when we throw up? He said it's because it's biological, it'll erode away on its own. He said, so we have... He said, we have plumbing on Earth that we use, and we use your toilets. We do go to the bathroom. And he said, on our planet, it's very much similar. Wow, that's how they do it in Japan. So he's showing me, he's like, really? That's how you do it in Japan? So there's these holes in the ground, like these, and they just squat when they go to the bathroom on their planet. That's how it is. And it goes under into it's kind of like their sewage system. And then it'll just flow out to a certain part of their planet where it'll naturally erode away. And that's where a lot of their plants grow. They use they create fertilizer out of their own waste, which is really nice. It's also kind of gross. All right, so I went through everyone's questions here, and holy shit, there's a lot of people commenting. Nicole's asking, do they have differing spiritual beliefs like humans do? He says no. For the most part, we have the same belief that everyone's one and we all come from the same place and we're all energy. He says, but other than that, that's the only common belief we have. He said that we all have our own opinions about things. Some people will have their own opinions on death and how to view death or how to view life and things of that nature. But we don't have different religions because we never had a need for religion. We've always been one. Everything we've always done as a species has always been together. So it's been much easier for us to be peaceful towards one another. Patricia is asking, how are you, Sam? He laughs. He always thinks it's weird when humans ask how someone else is doing. He says, I'm doing well. Thank you. A lot of people are saying hi to you, Sam. And Cindy's asking, what kinds of things do they do to reward their children? Oh, yeah. He says candies, positive reinforcement. We give them, what's that called? Verbal. It's verbal. Verbal encouragement and telling them, oh, you did a great job. And he said most of the time the verbal is enough for them to, feel rewarded. He said, my people are not very materialistic. We don't need, we're not in need of a toy or anything. And Nicole's asking, do they contemplate spirit and soul like we do? Do they fear death like a lot of humans do? Okay, so let's start with that question first. He said, in the beginning stages of my people being able to channel, that's what you call it, channeling, it was such a big deal that it encompassed everything that we were at the time. And if you could channel and you could tap into that, you were seen as such a great oddity. He said, much like humans are today, you're kind of in that same headspace that we once were because it's new. He said, nowadays, we don't really tap into spirit or talk to spirit because we have no need for it. It's not seen as such a great, he said, it's not seen as such a great gift because everyone does it. It's kind of like no different than if someone were running and I said, look, I can run. And they're saying, well, yeah, I can do it too. This is a funny example. Do you fear death like humans do? He said some fear death. He said it's a natural reaction to fear death because your body naturally wants to fight to survive. So you can't really, fight that. Do you believe in past lives? He says, yes, we do, but it's much different. He's asking about the little things that go across the screen, like the little emojis or whatever. That was an angry one. Someone got angry. And now he's asking, why did I say something to insult you? I don't know who it was. Do you guys believe in soulmates? He says, oh, absolutely. There's a huge, our entire lives are surrounded by, about our love for our partners. He said a great deal of our life is about finding that soulmate. We call it something else. We call it our, he says, it's similar to your term of twin flame. We call it our special someone. And he said the rough estimate would be our special one. Do they have government that lies and deceives like we do? He said, absolutely not. We don't keep secrets, and we don't agree with how your government does things. Okay, so Christine's asking, do you guys get birth defects and disabilities? He says, no. He said, I'm going to explain something, and you will not agree, and you will not like it. But in the grand scheme of things, this is how we view it. He says, when somebody that we know, we check on the fetus throughout the pregnancy, if we see that there is going to be some type of birth defect, where the child maybe will be born without eyes, or born with some type of mental disability, we view it as we don't want them to suffer in this life and feel as though they're not adequate, or they feel like they can't live to a full extent of life because of this disability. He said we see a lot of humans that are born because you view life as so sacred that you save the lives of even those with disabilities. He said that we don't. When we see a fetus that's going to develop issues and not going to have a very full, he said, I don't want to say it's like it's not, humans with disabilities don't live full lives. He's saying it's just much harder for them. And he said we also view life like the soul. Your body is just a vessel. And if that vessel isn't going to be... Your choice of words sounds so bad, but I'm just going to say it. He says, when your vessel isn't top notch and 100%, why use it? Wow, that sounded bad. He said, he's saying you could always jump into another fetus, another body that's forming that will be at 100%. He said, we view the soul as the individual, not the person in the body as the individual. I hope that makes sense. And he's saying, so yes, we will end the pregnancy if we see that happening, because a lot of times it's already hard enough for our women to become pregnant, and we don't want to carry on the genetic issues that may come with this disability or this type of birth defect. We don't want it to carry on for generations, so we end it. That sounded really bad, but okay, so Nicole's saying, it sounds like they as a whole get to know the truth about other species as we have zero disclosure. Does he know of other planets where people live clueless like us? He says no. He says the planets they have contact with, they're very open about everything that happens. He said humans are very unique in the fact that they live separately, but together at the same time. And Carrie's saying, I spoke to one of the gods today about the Sarsahr at Shiny. Okay, so that's just the whole other thing. That's a whole other topic. Diane saying the Bashar, I don't know what that is, says, though our forms may be different, our minds may be different, our hearts are the same. Sam's nodding and he's saying, I agree. And Shali is saying, I love Sam. He says, I love you too. And Diane's asking, can Sam tell us if the moon is actually a sort of ship or satellite made by reptilians? He's laughing. He's saying, no. Okay, so they're all laughing. Diane, don't take that as an insult. Okay, I have to wait for them to stop. Okay, so Sam's saying, no, absolutely not. It is a real moon. You have a real moon. He said there are bases on your moon, on the dark side of the moon, where you can't see them, and underground, where there's many other extraterrestrial species that live on there. He said mostly gray and reptilian types, but the moon is a moon. I also heard a physicist speaking about the sun not being thermal, but being some sort of transformer. And Sam's saying, your son's a sun. He's saying humans are so strange with their theories. Okay, so Cindy's asking, are the Sarsahr in contact with the government of any other countries besides the American government? And he says no. Our deal is with the American government. And only because we had been living in one spot for so long, and it just so happens that that one spot we've been living for hundreds of years turned out to become America later, and then later on it even became an Air Force base where they were at, and that's the only reason why they have contact with us. Patricia's asking Sam, what's going to happen on September 23rd? A lot believe Jesus is coming back, rapture happening, anything on that? Thanks. He's saying, I can't predict your future. He's saying, if I would be affected by this rapture as well, wouldn't I? He said, uh, that involves a lot of Christian-based belief that I just don't believe in. And he's saying, don't you believe in reincarnation? If you believe in reincarnation, technically Jesus already came back. Your Jesus already came back. And now he's saying, from my understanding, I do not have a doomsday on my September 23rd on my calendar. So he said, from my point of view, you're going to be just fine. He said, I don't have any other advice on that. He said that he finds it strange that humans try to always predict the end of the world. He said, if anything, it could be a major shift in energy on your planet, and it could be that a lot of people all at once changing how they view things. A big collective of them may change their perspective all at once. He said it could be that. That could be what's happening. But from my understanding, there is no doomsday. It's not the end of your planet. Your planet won't end, and neither will you. Okay, Cindy is asking, do you guys watch movies made by humans? Or do they make their own movies? He said, we don't make movies. We watch human movies. He said, we prefer the black and white films. They're much shorter. And he says they enjoy the humor from the black and white films. Okay, how in the world do they get our movies to show in their theater? He said, our theater is built by humans. Our entire base on Earth is built by your United States generals. And so however you run he's saying we have people who have been taught, our people have been taught how to run a projector and things like that. He said, so it's no different than how you would do it. You would buy a projector and you would put the disc and watch the film. And Fraser's asking, you talked about humans not being able to advance our technology without being able to combine science with spiritual type stuff. Can you talk about how we can start to do this? And he's saying you're starting to do it slowly. He said, you can't really, not saying that you can't. He said, but it would be much more difficult to completely change how your medical industry is. So what I suggest you do is whenever you get sick or whenever you need to go see a doctor, you go see that doctor. But on top of going to the doctor, you also see somebody who can heal you energetically, because you need both. So that's how you can start incorporating spiritual with medical. And he's saying in terms of deep space travel and things like that, he's saying that the only time we really combine spirituality with medical is when, with science is when it's medical. And the only time that we ever combine spirituality with our other types of science is when it deals with our own beliefs, the way we want to, I don't know how he's trying to explain that. The way he's trying to explain how they help make the crop circles. Like they don't make all the crop circles, but they make a couple of crop circles. And how they do that is they play this flute. And wow. So they play this flute, and from this flute, there's the elders. I explained it in the document I wrote about them. They have these elders who are always constantly channeling and being open to messages from spirit and from other dimensions and things like that. The elders will get images in their head of what to create for the humans on their planet. He said that's how we incorporate science and spirituality in terms of that. But he said mostly I was talking about your medical, how you choose to heal yourselves in terms of science and spirituality. Do they contemplate spirit? Okay, that's like the same question. Beverly's asking, can you modify your DNA so that they never die? He says, we have never tried to do that. We don't feel that you should mess with the balance of life. He said that to fix the problem with their organs, he said it's always been like that. So he's saying that we don't try and manipulate how natural our body goes. He said everyone must die eventually. Like your body must die eventually. Whether or not you're... he said some species will live longer than others, but your body will eventually die off. And that's not a bad thing. It's natural, and it keeps the balance. And Cindy's asking, do you guys exercise? He says, yes. We like to stay active, and we don't view exercise as a chore like most humans do. They view it as a way to lose weight and keep in shape and stuff. We like to do those things. So yes, we do exercise. Fraser's asking, do Sarsahr ever fall in love with people who are already in relationships? He says, no, absolutely not. He says, except for Avery. He's the exception with Carrie. Diane's saying, sometimes we choose a vessel with issues to learn lessons. And he says, oh, yes, absolutely, but the Sarsahr won't do that. You won't come in as a Sarsahr then in order to learn that lesson. So Laura's saying that she loves us both. And he's saying thank you. He puts his hand to his chest, says thank you. Nicole's asking, do you guys vaccinate? He said, oh, yes, we do. Okay. He's saying we do. And he went on this huge rant for a second. I had to listen. He says, yes, we do vaccinate, but it is much different than how humans are vaccinating, because they, with your vaccinations, it comes with there's a lot of extra things, like a lot of extra, like chemicals. There we go. He says there's a lot of extra chemicals that you put in your vaccinations that are causing, not with everybody, but with some children, because you're advancing more as a species and you're becoming more sensitive, it's affecting your children, and that's why a lot of your children are getting more and more get negative reactions to it. He said, but we do vaccinate because there are diseases that we need to be vaccinated from. Brenda's saying that you're a bit of a smartass today, and he's saying yes. This is how he usually is. This is how he is when he gets comfortable. Okay, Nicole's asking, did we who incarnate in the present choose a specific planet and timeline? He's saying yes. We believe that we have chosen this specific body ourselves and have chosen to incarnate now. But he said, and I would imagine the same rule applies to humans and any other species on any other planet and in any other dimension. Did Heather make a soul contract with Sam before incarnating in his life? Okay, I'll answer that because Sam won't know that answer because it's my soul contract, not his. Yes, I did. And, you know, Sam doesn't really tap into spirit, so he doesn't really know how to... He doesn't want to know the answer to that. He won't channel for the answer. But he does have like this deep knowing feeling inside of him that, yes, we did agree to something. And so, yes, and just to sum it up, yes, a soul contract. Beverly's asking, will Sam get in front of the camera and say hi to us for a second? Well, okay. Well, you won't see him, but I mean, you could say hi, I guess. You can't see him. He's in another dimension. But he waved with his 4 fingers. He waved. But okay, and Lisa is asking, do you guys believe in karma? Okay, karma is where you believe that, like, okay, whatever you dish out will come back to you, that kind of thing. And like say you punch a dude in the face, right? And then like 5 minutes later you like stub your toe or something, and you feel like, oh, well, that's karma. You got what you deserved, kind of thing. He said, in a way we do, but we don't believe that the universe will deliver that karma for us. We do it ourselves. Shit. So don't piss them off. He's saying we don't believe that the universe will provide the karma. Because that is to imply judgment in the universe, and the way everything works and the collective energy works is non-judgmental. He said so, and that way, no, I don't believe some mysterious force is providing the karma. He said you must create your own karma. Oh, Sam, don't say those things. Okay, so because they believe in an eye for an eye, so if you hurt them, they'll hurt you right back. But they're not going to wait for karma to come to you to hurt you. They're going to do it themselves, kind of thing. That's what he means by that. Sam, do you remember any of your past lives? He says, no, I have no need to. He says, although Heather remembers a past life, and I do. We lived in the 1920s, and I was wanting to be an actress and a singer. He was so sweet. I love him. He was so sweet even then. Diane's saying that she loves us both dearly. And he says, I love you too. Patricia's asking, sorry, last question. Do some of us have alien DNA in us? And he says, absolutely. He says, yes, there's a lot of hybrids on Earth. He said, in fact, most humans, he said, all humans are hybrids. He said that, but that's his belief. He doesn't have any data to back his belief up, but he says that he believes that all humans are hybrids in one form or another. He said, because in the beginning, he said, this is rumor. He said, I haven't asked specifically, but he said that there's rumor that humans, you advance so quickly and, through evolution, had advanced so quickly, much quicker than the people before you on this planet. He said, you got help. He said, I'm pretty sure you got help with your evolution. And Patricia's asking, do some of us have galactic families? And he said, I'm not sure what you mean by that. He's saying, are you saying he said, what you call your spirit guides? Are they extraterrestrial guides? He said, yes, there's people that will choose to have those. And Patricia's saying, I am told I have Palladian DNA in me, but I'm Syrian. Is this true? And he said, I wouldn't know that answer. He said, I don't channel, so I'm not. He said, your guess would be as good as mine. Nicole said, are they mind wiped at birth so not to remember past lives and our connection to source? He says, no. He says, there are some Sarsahr who remember past lives. Some of them remember them in small doses. He said, but for the most part, that's up to the individual soul to decide if they want to remember. Fraser's asking, what kind of exercise do you guys do? Do you guys lift weights? The men are laughing. I said, no, we don't lift weights. We like to run mostly. And we play a lot of fun little games. He said, we'll play with the children when they throw this dry sagebrush, tumbleweeds. They'll throw them and play catch and things, and run around. But he said we don't lift weights. Or he's talking about gymnastics for some reason. He's saying we don't do gymnastics. We don't participate in a lot of sports like humans do because our bodies are way too fragile to be able to participate in something like that. Monica is saying hi to us, which is hi. Okay, so these are going to be the last questions because we only have a minute left. Well, I decided I'm going to stop at 3. So Nicole's asking, are humans more sexual compared to other galactic beings? And he's saying yes. In regards to Sarsahr, absolutely. He said there are some other extraterrestrial species who are just as sexual as humans are, but not more so. I'm saying you guys are at the same level, but way more sexual than my people. Nicole's asking, where do we fall on the spectrum from vanilla to hedonist? Hedonist? What is that? I don't know what that is. I don't even know how to pronounce it. I think maybe it's a joke. I can't explain that to you. I don't understand. And Jody's saying, much love to you, Sam, and thanks for sharing your amazing lives. I says you're welcome. Sam, do you have anything else to add? Okay, so the teacher, she's sitting down and she's standing up and she says, yes, I have something I'd like to say. She says, for those of you that may not know me, I am the teacher. He said, I teach the children of my kind. And she said it's a very high up job, a position that you can have, and much is seen with much deeper respect than your human teachers are seen. And she said that I have to have pretty high clearance in order to become a teacher because I'm dealing with children, and the children are our future. She said it was always my idea for us to live among humans, and I'm very happy that we're starting to take this step towards that idea. She said, I've always imagined us being able to watch movies together or have our children play in the park together. And she said, that's all we really want from you is your friendship and your time. He said, for those of you that are interested in making contact with us, you may very much do so. Just call out to us and we will arrive. She said, I am much more eager. I'm used to interacting with humans, and I am more likely to show up in the physical than my counterparts are. So she said that to leave out little, she's saying for the children, she would like to bring the children by. For those of that, she said that she'll watch over those, and whoever she deems safe enough, she'll bring the children by. She said to leave out little trinkets and toys for them. She said we most likely will come during the full moon, just to give you a time frame if you would like to do that. And just call out to us that you're leaving out toys for us and the children. And she's saying that she loves this. She loves this so much. She's very excited for the future. She said, I most likely would not be... Oh, please, homegirl, you'll probably be alive. She's saying, I most likely won't be alive to see where this goes. But you will. You live. You got like 400, 500 more years left on you. Like, relax. So, all right, that's it. And, yeah. If I'm going to end this, I don't know how, bye and stuff.